Okay, so we seem to be rolling, and I've had this. I hope my mic's on correctly and all that stuff. But um, yeah, I've seemed to have. I've had this really heady sort of cold going on, and in the last week or so, and I've been kind of like in this surreal kind of atmosphere, especially when it comes to the. I kind of took a break from the atheism stuff, but I still thought about it, and I seem to have been in this really kind of surreal way of understanding like what atheism is from this kind of like altered consciousness almost. You could even say I was on drugs really, but it definitely was this like heady kind of cold thing going on. Um, so anyway, I'm always thinking about what the hell it is I'm doing on this blog. I mean, it's not a big blog, like it's pretty tiny. Although I have to say that 2/3 of the people on there are people that I don't know at all, or I know but only to a very faint degree. So there's some outside interest, but 1/3 of the blog is still my friends, but I don't get a lot of comments. There's not a lot of traffic on the blog, so I'm constantly in kind of housekeeping mode. I'm always kind of like wondering what it is I'm doing. It feels a lot of times like I'm a little bit isolated in terms of getting an honest opinion on how what I say and post affects people. Um, but that being said, I'm not. I don't really believe that I'm in a vacuum. Like I don't believe I'm in a vacuum. I actually think that there are some things you can get and that you can understand through reading the news. I think the news is especially for my blog and the purposes of my blog. I think the news actually is sort of the where the rubber hits the road. That's where you read all the conceptual stuff about atheism, and then you see it happen, in different countries, in your own country, in the city, etc., etc. So while I'm saying I don't have a lot of traffic on my blog, I don't think I'm coming from places that can't be referenced in any real sense. That can't, sorry, I just confused myself. I don't think I'm coming from places that can't be referenced in any real sense. I mean, some people have this kind of removed kind of notion of the news, right? Like they read the news, but it's not real to them. Like they don't. And I'm saying that because I used to be that way. I used to read the news, but I never really saw the relevance or understood like sort of the practicalities of where all this stuff happens and why it happens. So yeah, I mean, I've just been thinking about my blog and what it means and like what does any of this stuff mean? I mean, in most cases, I'm always feeling like I'm just being very honest about my opinions. But I also don't. I also don't like do things like interview people or ask people questions or have guests on my videos like to make comments on what it is I'm doing and not doing. So yeah, there's a line I play there, but as mentioned, I don't think it's coming from a place that's devoid of meaning, or I'm just making this stuff up in my head. I mean, and there's a lot of people who have very similar opinions to me, and a lot of times I find that I may say something that gets later confirmed, or I read something and agree with it, and then I'll say something similar or agree with what I just read, etc., etc. So it's a mixed bag. I'm never actually just kind of making the stuff up in my head. That being said, I ran across this interesting concept on the Reason Revolution site, and then it was mentioned on the latest Sam Harris podcast about Dan Dennett's concept of belief in belief. And maybe this is the Zizek in me talking, but I think we've gotten to a point where I mean, by the time you get to the third level, like, I mean, you're probably talking about a sort of like an infinite kind of domino effect that just has a principled anti-atheism kind of effect, or just like a maybe just even an emotional attachment to an idea that's not even real anymore. But I would go so far as to say it's belief in belief in belief. And I think like I said, by the time you get to the third level of belief, etc., etc., like what you're actually talking about is actually something that has no traction when it comes to what you're arguing for anymore, because now it's just kind of this sort of like this fuzzy kind of ephemeral, almost ethereal kind of emotive kind of thing going on when it comes to belief and religion, etc., etc. There's nothing underpinning anything you say anymore. I mean, it's just belief. Like, I mean, it's just, how abstracted can you get before it just turns into just like this emotive nonsense? And yeah, I really do mean that. I really do mean that. And I think it happens a lot. I mean, Dan Dennett mentioning it alone, and even Zizek mentioning it. Like, I mean, it seems like a thing that would be real. Um, I mean, you think about dwindling congregations. Like, I mean, like, I mean, or even say like apostasy in the Mormon Church when it comes to issues like birth control or homosexuality. I mean, there's an apostasy happening, but I mean, there's still like this reverence for religion from. I mean, it's not the best example, but I mean, there's still people that remain in the religion. I mean, you're talking about mass apostasy, especially for the homosexuality thing, and but then there's this congregation that remains there, and then even the Mormon Church's attempt at basically expanding the brand and or rebranding. Like, I mean, there's still like this importance placed on the religion somehow by somebody, despite like this, these kind of like jolts in basically how people leave and get out of religion altogether. So, like I said, not the best example, but I mean, I don't think that you can walk down the street, for instance, and there's still like tons of churches up. Like, I mean, mind you, their congregations are dwindling and et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, you could walk down the street and you'll still see tons and tons of churches along the way, along where I live anyway. You could walk down the street and there's churches everywhere. I mean, that's definitely a monument, or they are monuments to basically just the reverence that people give to religion. I mean, it's, and maybe if it, maybe like, I mean, there's people in my family, that do talk about the importance of religion, even though they're not really all that religious. So I mean, that's a pretty close example. I mean, I don't mean to sell anybody out, but like, I mean, that happens. Yeah, so I mean, you think about like maybe the petition that was circulated when the Pennsylvania scandal broke for the Catholic Church. I mean, there were a lot of people that were supposed to sign on to that petition, requiring all bishops and cardinals, not cardinals, I'm kind of fuzzy on that one, but bishops resigning, like the higher ups in the Catholic Church across the country resigning. But there was like a 0.0015% of Catholics that actually signed that petition, even after all the scandals had broke. And maybe there were more that signed on, but I mean, given the immensity of the Pennsylvania scandal, I mean, you would think that there would be more signatures on that thing, but I mean, it was just such a non-starter. So anyway, there's still like this anyway, so not the best examples, I know, but I don't think Dan Dennett's lying, and I don't think that Bill Maher, I forget who said it on the latest podcast with Sam Harris, but or referencing it anyway. I don't think it's something so unbelievable that my examples are going to totally just like not confirm them. But yeah, I do think that there's this reverence for religion that exists even among like people who don't go to church all the time, or so that's my thing. When it comes to basically going on about my blog again, yeah, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going with it, but it's going. So that's about all. Bye.